Welcome, everyone. This is E2KG at E3. This is day 0, maybe day 1, depending on how you're counting, but this is Sunday night. We are minutes away from Bethesda's podcast, but the E2KG network is here. We're going to be coming at you 3 times this week. Sunday night, we're going to be back on Tuesday, and then again on Thursday as an E3 wrap-up. So tonight, we've got all the press conferences that have happened, staging it right in the middle of Bethesda so that as we hit these chronologically, we might have a few things to talk about at the end. But like all of our E2KG3 shows, whoa, that's way too many acronyms. I can't even say that too many times. But wait a minute, we have guests with us who have also brought along some props. So, Osiris Prime, what are you wearing and why?
These are my 8-bit shades. There's no really 8-bit news, but I mean, well, at least not yet. But I just thought I'd put them on.
See, I thought for a minute there you were going to be, because as an Xbox fan, your future's so bright. You've got to wear shades.
I'm probably going to take them off soon, though, because I can't see anything.
Oh, well, there you go. Anyhow, and joining us also is Swissguard. Swiss, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I don't have too many irons in the fire for the press conferences that we've had, but I'm happy to share my thoughts.
That's okay. You're saving your analysis for PlayStation. So, but you did finish Horizon Zero Dawn this weekend, so congratulations there.
Yeah, it's hard to put 90 hours into a game with real life around you, but it was worth it. So
excellent.
I was really sad to see it. And
so anybody listening to that, Horizon Zero Dawn, the complete edition, is part of Sony's Play event this week, and it is on sale for only $20. So if you haven't picked it up yet, I know, Swiss, you have a lot of good things to say about it, but we're probably not going to talk about it tonight. So, gentlemen, let's dive in. We've got a time crunch here. So we've got yesterday, EA had their EA Play event. It's still going on, but they had their kind of kickoff press conference. And then today we had Microsoft's press conference. Microsoft announced that they had 50 games to show. 18 of those were exclusive. 15 were world premieres. And so there's a whole laundry list of stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of run down each press conference in kind of chronological order. And we're going to stop and pop out and discuss a few things along the way that pique our interest, that got us excited, whether it's because of the game or kind of what it means for the console or the industry. So let's go ahead and get started. And in true EA fashion, they started off with their big dice game for the year. This is Battlefield 5, Battlefield V for victory. And Prime, you've been a Battlefield fan in the past. What did you think about some of the discussion, some of the announcements here? They gave a little bit in terms of the single-player trailer, but then we also heard about some Battle Royale pieces as well.
Yes. So, so they had mentioned Battle Royale, but they haven't shown anything yet or gone into any detail, not that I've seen at least. They said they were going to do that later on. I don't know if they meant later on in the show or later on, like in the year. So we'll see what happens with that. But as far as like the multiplayer stuff, they showed quite a bit of it. And there's actually, I think it was today or maybe late yesterday, some gameplay on IGN that they were going through. They actually had one of the devs there talking through while they were showing a video. They weren't actually playing, but they were just showing a video of some gameplay. And they're actually showing, so there's kind of like heavy weapons, I guess, all around the maps. So there's like a huge gun. I forgot what it was called, what the model and stuff is. But basically, if you have a vehicle, you can hook the vehicle up to that and move it around the battlefield. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was something different at least. The destructibility is still there, and it seems that a tank can just see you smiling, DB.
It's so hard to take you serious as you're wearing those glasses. But you're talking about some serious stuff, some serious destructibility here. I remember that the video where they had the tank kind of roll up through, and some of the EA conversations with IGN today talked about how your class can go back and rebuild some structures as well.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool that you actually rebuild these houses and stuff instead of just being like just a wasteland of destructive buildings and barricades. You can do the barricades now too. So they showed like kind of sandbags and like kind of these like kind of what do you call those, like jacks almost, kind of these T-shaped or plus shaped barricades. So it was pretty cool. I thought that was neat. Something different. Instead of just destroying everything and then okay, I got this point, so I'm pretty much going to hold it down now. And now you can try to build it back up and defend it a little bit better. They talked about the classes a little bit more. So there's obviously you have the the engineering class and sniper and medic and all that, but there's I guess class specific. Well, as you're progressing through the classes, you get different items now and that you can just throw on for that class. So that's pretty cool. And then also last thing, or at least that I saw, was the squads. So squads play a bit more important details here now in the game. There's actually I would say almost kind of like I guess like a kill streak or a score streak. Like as you level up in your squad, I guess, or as you get so many kills. They didn't really explain it too well in the video. They just kind of touched on it. But as you kind of level up your squad, you can call in like heavy guns or get like special weapons and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of cool, something different that kind of, I don't want to say makes you go into a squad, but it gives you a definitely an advantage if you actually work with your squad this time instead of just kind of being the lone wolf, and just happen to be in a squad. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anything else that you guys saw?
I think some of the things I gleaned from the IGN article from today is, that squad piece that you're talking about is all the more important because anybody can revive a downed squad mate, right? You do not have to be the medic class, but it does take a little longer to revive. So I think that they're playing into this aspect of squads and community a little bit further. And one of the other pieces that I find interesting is just like what did they announce this last time, right? Is the regenerating health, the lack of it, right? That you have to take a med pack or something, and that ammo is a whole lot more scarce as well. So some pieces there that kind of got flushed out from the reveal event from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, that was another. Oh, go ahead, Swiss. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that sounds very influenced by
Oh, he had to take care of something, I think.
Influenced by, I guess he would say maybe PUBG or some other games, potentially.
Even Call of Duty.
There we go.
Call of Duty was going to start doing that this coming up game. So, you had mentioned about the class, how, anybody can do the medic stuff, revive people, but the same thing with the engineers. So, anybody can rebuild the buildings and all that, but an engineer can do it much faster and more proficient. So they're doing, that specific kind of thing with the classes too. So I thought that was pretty cool.
All right, so let's keep on going down the list of EA. They spent some time with FIFA, and then they took a little break from games to talk about their cloud gaming. And so they did not announce anything in terms of a service, and they said they're a little bit further off. But I don't know that we've covered this on E2KG, but EA did purchase GameFly a couple months ago, and mainly for the streaming service, the back-end structure that GameFly has. And so it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with that. The other piece that they talked about, this again as a service aspect, was EA Origin Premier. So EA Origin works like EA Access on Xbox. EA Origin is $30 a year. You get 10-hour trials, you get Vault games for free, and you get some discounts on new games. EA Origin Premier is going to be $100, and it will give you day and date full games that you have access to while you have the subscription. So it works similar to something like Game Pass almost, Xbox piece there. But they are talking about the games that it will come day and date with in terms of FIFA and Battlefield 5 and Anthem and also Madden. So this is the first time since the mid-2000s that Madden will be on PC. And so it is, I think for me, this is a really interesting piece of, for $100, if you were already planning to buy 2 EA games over the course of a year, it has the potential to have a lot of great value there. If you're someone, maybe in Swiss's case here, where you're kind of getting back into PC gaming or at least upgrading into a heavier rig, that something like this where you have a big backlog of games where you can go back to some of the great games that you and I have talked about, Prime, like Titanfall 2, and be able to play those for the fee of 2 games. So for me, I was already looking at Best Buy's site and thinking about Anthem, thinking about Battlefield 5, and always tempted by Madden. The fact that maybe I could get all 3 of those for $100 rather than $150, I think it really makes me wonder what platform I will be playing some of these games on coming this fall. So that is Swiss. Do you have any thoughts there?
My only thought on the streaming stuff is because we're going to touch again probably I imagine with the Xbox, with the Microsoft conference. But my only thought is always, what if I don't want to continue my subscription? Then I lose access to all the games that I've had. So, on the one hand, it sounds good, but then I don't know how much I want to commit to being locked in, is always the here and there. But, like you said, FIFA, Madden, Anthem, and Battlefield 5 for effectively $100 if you plan to continue the service is, pretty good deal.
Well, and I think in some ways, even something like, the FIFA games or Madden, right, as a sports title, even if you've owned it, once the new version comes out, you're probably not going to play the previous year's version unless they really screw up something with the net code or something like that. So and this is a question that I think we'll come back to, is that idea of ownership versus kind of playership. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but right, it's that idea of am I consuming it and enjoying it as a consumable, or is this part of a collection that I'm building or an archive that I want to be able to come back to? And I think that is going to be a theme across this E3 and probably across this industry in the coming year here. So, but let's go ahead and keep going down. We've got kind of a Respawn announcement. We get a little bit of a nod from the Respawn team that they are working on a Star Wars game. It's going to be set between episode 3 and 4, so in the dark times, and they don't really say a whole lot more than that. But then we get what I thought was a really great kind of mea culpa in terms of the Battlefront devs coming out and saying, yeah, we hear you, we kind of screwed up, but we're still really committed to this game, and we're glad that you stuck with us, and here's some cool things that are coming. So I thought they handled that really well. EA had one thing really to kind of accomplish, is to get back into gamers' good graces and even the public's good graces, right? Like, as I sit around the lunch table yesterday before the EA conference talking about it, even my wife knows about the loot box controversy because of how high it hit on Reddit. So, I think they definitely acknowledged that, and they said, here's some things we're going to do differently. And Prime, you've got some information about what's coming to Battlefront, correct?
Yes. So actually, before that, they did for the Respawn Jedi Fallen Order game, they did mention it was between episodes 3 and 4. So that was a question that was asked. So I don't think you mentioned that, but I just want to throw it out there. So they're gonna do a new squad system coming this summer for Battlefront 2. They didn't really go into too much detail, but we're gonna see that. It looked like you like that. So
that was one of my big concerns or problems with Battlefront to begin with, is that you couldn't even spawn on, there was no incentive to play with friends because you didn't necessarily spawn together, where in the first game at least you could spawn back with an ally or in your squad. So yes, that's exciting to me because it gives me and you a reason to play together rather than just kind of coexist on the same server.
Yeah, so that'd be cool. I didn't realize that you couldn't even spawn on your partner anymore. So is it just like the two-person squad like it was last time?
No, it spawns you as a 4-person squad, but it's random. It's whoever had died recently and is respawning, and then you get XP boosts if you stick with your squad of random people. So I mean, in some ways, it was designed to incentivize group play, but it also really discouraged community play as well.
One thing on the dev talking about it, like you said, EA had to come in and get back in gamers' good graces. But, I feel like there's a difference between the actual developer who's designing the game and the kind of corporate, quote unquote, overlords or the ones that push the whole loot box thing in the first place. Because, I mean, developer has a vision of how can I make the player experience Star Wars? And they're not going to be like, man, I want to put a ton of paywalls up in front of them to get that to happen. So I get that. I'm glad that they put the developer out there, because that was kind of a theme for EA of getting the developers front and center. So you got the sense as the viewer to experience the passion that they had for the title and kind of get you emotionally attached to the titles themselves. But on the other hand, I was like, they're throwing this guy out there to apologize, but he's probably not the reason why it was like that, But anyway.
You're probably right, but you're not necessarily going to see the corporate piece out there saying, yep, we didn't make nearly as much money as we thought we were going to make, so I guess we're not going to do it that way. But you're right, and I think there's plenty of more loot box discussions to be had here on the E2KG network. But Prime, you've got some more details here of what's coming to Battlefront.
Yeah, a few more things. We have there's going to be a new Starfighter mode. I don't think they had mentioned what it was going to be exactly, or at least not yet. There's a mode where it's like you can capture command points and then take out battleships at the same time, I suppose. So that sounds pretty cool. I don't know if these are just going to be like low orbit like battleships, or if you can go flying into space. Probably not, but that'd be kind of cool to do that. And then the big news, I think, or at least for me, which I thought was kind of cool, is they're going to do Clone Wars content. So they have some new characters. They're going to have General Grievous, Obi-Wan, a young Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, and Anakin Skywalker. And then they had mentioned that they're going to have Geonosis, which was the clone planet, or I should say planet where they created the clones. So that should be pretty cool. And that was it for that one. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for Battlefront 2. I actually just picked it up last night. I had it downloading, so I had to download it overnight because it's pretty huge, that download. It's like 62 gigs or something, so I haven't had a chance to play it yet. But I did play the beta, and I did like it, so I know, I have a little bit of a gameplay experience a little bit. So I'm looking forward to play all the content now, and then the upcoming content that's coming out in the summer and the fall.
Great. So Swiss, you were just talking about EA kind of putting the devs out there as front and center to get us to care about their game. So one of the devs that showed up a couple years ago with his little pocket Yarny character was for the game Unravel. And so now we get an announcement about Unravel 2.
Yeah, so I never played the first Unravel, but this game interested me. And
no, that's good. Interested your child as well, right? I mean, this is the realities of gaming and parenting, people, right here, that we are so dedicated to our E3 coverage that we bring our families along, and that's great.
He's silent the whole time until I unmute my mic.
Well, obviously, then you start talking, so he thinks he needs to talk back.
But so he talked about how the yarn symbolized like relationships and between two people, and they had the little demo, and he was talking about it, and he was passionate about it, and the game looks quirky and cool. I got a little bit, like I said, I haven't played the original Unravel, but I got a little bit of Little Big Planet vibes from it. But I actually like the tone that Unravel seems to be showing a little bit more. And they have the puzzles where the two guys are connected to each other, and they'll fling each other around or distract an obstacle so the person can scoot by. And I was actually at that point, I was with my wife, and we both agreed that it would be something that we'd want to check out to play together. I got the sense that it was a couch co-op game based on the way they did the presentation. I don't remember seeing an official statement of that, but I'm all for couch co-op, and I enjoy puzzle platformers, so that one was good. But as you said, DB, that was another example of what I felt was a big difference between the Microsoft and the EA press conferences. EA definitely put the developers out so that they could talk about their passion projects. And I know in the Flock client, we got another game coming up next, Sea of Solitude, that you guys, I think, all agreed that the developer presentation for that really piqued your interest.
Yeah, so Prime, talk about this one a little bit. So this is a game that was announced a couple years ago, but the developer, it's a small Berlin studio, and she came out to talk about kind of Sea of Solitude and the relationships and the dynamics there related to her game.
Yeah, it's from I think this is how you pronounce it, Joy Me Games, as a publisher, or excuse me, developer. And yeah, they're talking about how this is kind of an emotional game. Emotion plays a big part in this game, and you kind of see from the trailer that they had, it was kind of, I guess, kind of cell shady kind of graphics, a little mix of that and kind of 3D. But this girl, it almost sounds like she has maybe some kind of issue, like emotional issue. So maybe this is like her manifestation. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's just a world she made up. We don't really know, but from the trailer, and from what they're talking about. But she's kind of like all black and has red eyes, and almost like a shadow almost. So, and she's kind of going through this world, which is actually kind of vibrantly colored, and there's regular colored buildings and water and stuff like that. But there's these huge monsters that are like coming after her, like this big thing in the water, and these other things on hills and mountaintops and stuff like that. But yeah, and we kind of talked about this a little bit during our Flock chat, our in our podcast chat, and just how just the developer herself was just the way she was like, describing it, and how she was getting so emotional herself, describing the game. It was just like, that's pretty cool. And maybe that was part of it, and maybe just because of the game looks so cool that I just got this really big interest in it. And I'm looking forward to this coming out early 2019, I believe it said. So
Yeah, I agree. I think she really sold it well. She gave you a context for it. I think at one point, one of the things I read was, how the girl is and the monster are kind of connected and maybe even are part of each other. So it'll be interesting to see kind of the storytelling there. And like you said, how much of it is real and how much of it is some type of emotional internal struggle. So again, really interesting. And I really appreciate what EA has been doing, right? I mean, we get things like Faye and things like A Way Out and Unravel. We get a lot of kind of interesting creative games, even while they're bombarding us with big AAA games. So it's been a nice kind of mixture there. So speaking of big AAAs, or not, I guess not big AAAs, but how about franchise games, right? Then we move into some more sports talk with NBA Live and Madden 19. So we already talked about Madden 19 coming to PC. They gave us a little bit there. They're going to come back to the long shot mode, and it's actually going to follow up with the characters from last year's long shot. So this is the story mode from Madden. And then NBA Live, interesting piece here. I think two things that really stuck out to me as I read about NBA Live, and I enjoyed the first or last year's NBA Live. It was actually functional and well done. They had WNBA in there, but you really only could play exhibition games. And now it looks like you've got kind of a character creator where you could be a male or a female. They had some games where you had both genders playing on the court at the same time. So I really think that there's something here with EA leaning in this direction, whether it's with NBA or soccer is doing something as well, where they're going to have both women's leagues and men's leagues in there on the same field. And with the kind of hubbub around Battlefield 5 of male and female soldiers playing together. So I think that there's, I'm going to give EA credit in kind of pushing the direction here and making gameplay open to all genders and not just necessarily what fits within kind of the historical or the real world context. And so that is what I really am interested to see how NBA Live handles that. And also NBA Live is launching on the same day as NBA 2K. So be interesting to see how they price this. Last year they were $20 cheaper than NBA 2K, and we'll see what happens there.
How was last year's NBA Live taken? Did it do fairly well, or
it did fine, right? I think they discounted it heavily, and within by January, before even the All-Star game, it was down to under $10 on digital sales. So I think they were really undercutting the price, trying to get people interested in it. It was done well. I think it was a little more, to me, it was a little more accessible than NBA 2K in terms of the shot meter and a little more forgiving there. And it had a pretty nice story mode. It was a little simplified, but it also didn't have any microtransactions in terms of upping your character or anything else like that. So that was definitely a benefit where EA did a little bit over on NBA 2K and Take-Two there. So we move into a little bit of a new reveal of Command & Conquer, but we find out that it is a mobile game, and they play it here on the stage. And Prime, you had downloaded it and got into it, but you said it was a pre-alpha. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has a pre-alpha stamp on it, and when you're playing it, so.
Okay, so maybe we'll come back to that in a little bit. And he's got it up and running with sound effects. Yeah. So the next time after we get back from E3 here, maybe we'll have some updates on how that is playing, or if you've continued to stay with it. Then EA takes a minute to talk about some of their charity work, including anti-bullying fundraising that they've been doing. And then they spend a lot of time on Anthem. So this is the BioWare game. We get Casey Hudson coming out along with one of the game directors and the story creative director there. And they spend a lot of time after a slick presentation of a trailer. Then they get kind of a Q&A roundtable with the directors. So that kind of wraps up EA's. Did you guys? So Anthem is a game that I'm really interested in as a fan of Mass Effects, as somebody who played 180 hours of the first trilogy. I'm very interested to see what they do story-wise. as a fan of Destiny and looter shooters, I'm very interested in this. But again, I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of gameplay. So maybe this is something that I come back to on our Thursday night show after we get some more reports about what it plays like in the field. So I've read a few pieces on IGN and some other places in terms of some hands-on gameplay, and everything seems relatively positive. They seem to create a world pretty well, but as we know with Destiny and with the Division, creating a breathing and a living world that will continue to engage players is difficult to get right on the first roll. So we'll see there. Any final thoughts on the EA press conference before we move into Microsoft?
I was, there wasn't anything like, I don't think there was anything completely out of left field during their conference. I'm intrigued by Anthem, but I'm like you, I want to see a little bit more gameplay wise, and I kind of want to see how the story is going to really play out versus when you're talking solo versus multiplayer. So, but I never got any like disappointment vibes or anything from them. I'm curious why they went ahead and announced the Star Wars reveal, put that tidbit out there when we're probably years away from seeing it.
Yeah, I think overall, I actually really liked the conference overall. So, like Swiss said, though, there was nothing that jumped out and like smacked me in the face or anything. But just overall, compared to the last couple of years, it was kind of, they had the long like sports segments and just kind of the sitting there and almost the Q&A style that they did this time. But it was with just like Pele and just other sports guys. It was got kind of boring. I mean, I'm not really a sports guy, so maybe for me, it's not the thing. But they just kept doing that and doing that. It was getting kind of old, I think. Even other people were saying that too. So I'm glad they kind of turned it around. It was almost kind of an Ubisoft vibe I got from the conference overall. So I think they did a good job. So I'm glad. I sat there and watched it this time instead of just looking at the cliff notes like I was doing the previous years.
Real quick, Google foo. Those stars or jacks that you're referring to on the World War II, they're called Czech hedgehogs because they were used they were originally in Czechoslovakia on the German border at that point. But anyway,
there we go. E2KG, the network for fact checking and historical accuracy. So
I don't know how you worded that when you searched it.
I don't know, that is impressive. Nice job, Swiss. And with a baby in tow. Way to go. So no, I agree with you, Prime. I think that EA's press conference, I was pleased with it. I think they did the small indie developer piece well, got us to care about some of those games. And on the big AAA front, at least for Battlefront and Battlefield and Anthem, their message was no loot boxes, no pay to win. Anthem has said no loot boxes. There's going to be cosmetic and vanity items that you can buy, but you're going to know what you're buying. It's not going to be a random roll. So I think that they hit that message, the message that they needed to hit about, we heard you, 2017 was rough. Here's why, no loot boxes, and here's a Star Wars game we haven't canceled. I think that is EA did kind of the damage control that they needed to. And I've read a few reports out there, and I happen to agree with it, right? Like on one hand, they're talking about no loot boxes and random pieces and pay to win, and on the other hand, they've got Madden Ultimate Teams and FIFA Ultimate Teams, which make up 50% of their revenue, which is all random. And if you're going to play that mode, it is very much pay to win. As somebody who has trickled down that path, that if you're going to be competitive, you're putting cash into that. So, but so there's a dichotomy there, but that's a topic for another day. So, gentlemen, let's move on to Microsoft. We have hit our half-hour point, and here we've got 50 games from Microsoft to try to get through in 30 minutes. So we're going to see how we do this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to speed through these. This is why I'm hosting, because I don't need to stop to take a breath. So we are going to keep going, but we're going to pop out every once in a while to talk about a few of these games. And the first big reveal that actually got my son and I cheering as he jumped off the couch was Halo Infinite. So they started, it was kind of this, it's more of a tone piece, really. And you only saw Master Chief, or at least the helmet at the very end. But then you see the name Halo Infinite. And so We don't know anything more, and it's not a surprise that Microsoft is working on a Halo game. Now it'll be interesting to see what it is. Then we move into what I think is a beautiful game. The first game was really beautiful as well, an enjoyable kind of a Metrovania platform puzzle game, which is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. We knew that that was coming out. Was announced last year, and we get a 2019 date. Then we get a new game. Oh wait, Swiss.
Oh,
You
my
want?
daughter was actually with me when that one popped up.
Isn't that game beautiful?
Yeah, she was really intrigued, and I'm like, we're not getting an Xbox. So,
but it's a Microsoft game, which means it's on PC.
Yeah, will be around. So, but yeah, that game was one of the highlights, I think, for me.
It's on PC. Plug in your
OG Xbox for a low price.
Okay, hold on. Now we're talking. Let's barter. We got what's it worth to you? So, anyhow, let's keep on moving down. We get a new From Software game. So this From Software, the makers of Bloodborne, the makers of Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Cirrico, Shadows Die Twice. So this is a FromSoft and Activision published game, but it looks like very much looks to be in that Dark Souls mindset in terms of counting frames and animations, but set in kind of feudal Japan. So we get kind of a samurai aspect to this. To me, this was a surprise. I think it makes a lot of sense. If Dark Souls is kind of feudal England, let's go to feudal Japan and see what we get there. What did you think, Prime?
Yeah, this one actually looks pretty cool just because it's the Japan setting, kind of samurai ninja type of thing. So I thought it looked pretty cool. They show the one point when the guy's fighting, he like kind of has this hat on, but it's kind of like a metal hat, and he like basically uses that shield because it like extends out around him. So it was pretty cool. There's a lot of craziness going on in that trailer. So, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in this. Very interesting subtitle. Shadows Die Twice. So
very Japanese subtitle.
Yeah.
That one I don't think was exclusive, correct? Not with From Software and Activision.
No, I don't think so. I think it may be an exclusive premiere is what it was. So it was a world premiere that was not an exclusive game. So hopefully, Swiss, your daughter that was watching you with the beautiful Ori and the Blind Forest was not around for the blood squirting that came right afterward as well. So that is, definitely a tone piece there. Not quite as bad as a couple years ago with, let's say, Last of Us or God of War Ascension, but definitely kind of jumping from tone to tone. Then we get Todd Howard coming out on the Prime. Did you have one more thing to say here on this FromSoft game?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so then we get Todd Howard from Bethesda coming up. Bethesda's press conference is going on right now. Just for those of you keeping track, we've got a lot of rage talk going on. But we get a little bit of Fallout 76. We get the first kind of a little more gameplay aspects here. And they also announced that Fallout 4 is live on Game Pass today. So I'm sure after the Bethesda press conference, we're going to know a lot more about Fallout 76. So I'm going to hold off on talking too much about that. But one of the games I want to jump into next is The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. So this is from the makers of Life is Strange. Life is Strange is kind of those, story adventure games, very much in the Telltale mold. First Life is Strange, excellent game. So this one is about a young boy who I guess maybe I can identify with quite a bit in terms of your imagination and adventures. And so it is a 100% free game, and it is coming out June 26th. So it's not going to be a platform exclusive, but it was, again, another exclusive reveal. So we go right from this free kind of cute imaginary game into Terry Crews, right? Into Sumo Digital, helping out and part of Crackdown 3. We get the date here, which we knew about because of the leaks and the official confirmation that Crackdown 3 has been pushed back to 2019. But I got to say, honestly, guys, I'm okay with that. This holiday season's already going to be packed. We've got a big open world game with Red Dead Revolution or Red Dead Redemption 2, right? How many Red Deads can I put in there? I was going to almost say Revolver. Plenty of them. But
first one.
I know. But so this is coming out in February, and to me, I think they showed a whole lot, right? They showed a lot of different environments. They showed a lot of different crazy guns. They showed vehicles transforming. They showed, a lot of action, definitely over the top within that Crackdown feel. As I'm sitting there watching it with my, middle school son, he really got excited about this game, and it's fun. It's just goofy comic book fun. It's the same thing that the first Crackdown was. And, I was very interested in Crackdown 3 when it was first announced, and I've kind of stopped caring about it. But after this, I'm like, yeah, you know what? One more reason why Game Pass makes a whole lot of sense in terms of I can play this for a little bit, try it out, and see if it's something I want to stick with.
Yeah, this is definitely one I had my eye on. And yeah, I'm still excited for it too. I think this one they just announced way too soon. And it just kind of, that was the problem with this one. So, obviously each year they're like, oh yeah, it's going to come out this year and this year and this year, but obviously it hasn't come out, but that's fine. When it comes out, it's going to come out, and I'm sure hopefully it'll be good, just as good as the first one. Second one was okay, but I really like the colors in this game because it's like all neon and they're like really vibrant, and it just looks really cool. They actually showed the car like going up the side of a building too, so obviously you had those car upgrades in the first one. I'm not so much sure if it was in the second one also, but so yeah, I'm definitely excited about this one when it comes out, hopefully in February.
Yeah, I think it's set, right? They even gave us a date, so I think that this is locked in. This is this is their Sea of Thieves timetable here in terms of a big game. But you're right, that neon futuristic kind of punky aspects definitely fits with the fun that's here. As somebody who loved kind of the over the top fun of Saints Row, at least 3 and 4, Crackdown 3 looks to be a great way to spend some cold winter days. Then we dive into a game that was leaked a little bit ago, the Nier Automata. This was the PlayStation and PC game from Square. This came out last year. I really enjoyed what I played of it. I think a couple of us on the E2KG network talked about it. But again, this is coming now to Xbox, and it will come with all the DLC that was included with it as well. So then we get Metro Exodus, which we knew about again from last year. We knew that it was going to be delayed into next year, and we get a date there as well of 2000. Whatever, I can't read my numbers. Right, February 23rd. Too many twos together, gentlemen. I'm sorry. So we're gonna kick through some games here that we got Nier and Metro Exodus, and then we get a nice Kingdom Hearts trailer, which is kind of the first time that we see a lot of some of that Kingdom Hearts pieces in terms of some of the different worlds, a little bit of story. And if you understood the story, congratulations, because it was referencing characters from the PSP game and Kingdom Hearts 2.8 from PlayStation 4 and a whole lot of other pieces, right? And then we went back to a beach reference from Kingdom Hearts 1, so they got it all in there. So whether you've played this on a platform from 2 generations ago, or a handheld platform from 2 generations ago, or the GBA chain of memories from 3 generations ago, right? That there is plenty here for fans. But I think one of the things that the Kingdom Hearts piece that I think was interesting is the way that the worlds that they're showing are going to be very popular for I think younger gamers, right? We get Frozen, we get Tangled, we get Toy Story, we get Monsters University, we get a lot of things that have been more recent within the canon of Disney. We'll see more about that. Square is going to have more tomorrow, and I'm sure it may be also on Sony's stage. By the time all 3 of those are done, we're probably going to have a lot bigger of a picture in terms of what this actually is, in terms of some of the combat and just some flashiness that it is as well. So we are moving on into some Sea of Thieves stuff, and we see that they've got the Forsaken Shores, which looks to be some DLC content or probably some free expansions that's coming in September. Then we get another teaser here on Battlefield 5, and with some of the single player story, we get just more of a cinematic. We don't actually get any gameplay here. So I was kind of surprised. I thought after the EA press conference that we'd see a little bit more of Battlefield 5, because they said you'll see more on the Microsoft stage, and that didn't necessarily happen. But what we did see a whole lot of was Forza Horizon 4. Well, we knew that Forza Horizon 4 was coming. It is in the annual cycle, and it is set in Britain, which makes sense since we're talking about Playground. And it's going to be a shared open world, which means that you're going to see everybody and be able to join in on the go. They talked about some world events, talked about seasons, and they're going to be synced up across games, so we'll all kind of be playing in the same way. And again, that it's going to be included day one within Game Pass. So right there, we got another big title coming up from Microsoft within their Game Pass promotion here. So Glasscleese is not here to give us any racing rundown, so we can keep on moving unless either one of you guys, they spent some time on Forza, so I wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts there, or if you want to keep on rolling.
Why do people people insist on having open world racers? That was my thought.
I was just gonna say, I actually kind of thought it was interesting because it was an open world racer. I'm not usually a big Forza fan. Horizon would probably be my cup of tea just because it's a little bit less simmy, I think, than the mainline game. So, but it looked pretty cool. I mean, game itself looked gorgeous, and just being able to race around and, I'm assuming just start races or whatever you want to do. I suppose, kind of like there was a racing game like that a while ago, and I can't remember the name of it. But well, I mean, other than like Burnout, but there's something else before that. But no, I thought this really looked interesting, and also Metro Exodus. I actually thought that looked pretty cool. I don't know. I guess the other games. I think there's two before this one.
Yes, Last Light, and I don't know if it's just 2033 based on the novel. Yeah.
Yeah, those look kind of like doom and gloom. I mean, this one is too, I suppose, just because of the setting. But it looked like there's some more kind of like Fallout problem. There's just too much gloominess, and this one looked like a little bit more color. And like you can, I don't know if you could do this in the old games, but you can like mod out your weapons and stuff like that. So it actually looks kind of interesting. I had no interest in it before, but after looking at that trailer, it did pique my interest. So might be.
Yeah, I think the mod piece there seems to be new, right? Metro was a game where bullets were part of the currency, so that there was very much this kind of post-apocalyptic. It's a Soviet novel, and so it's based in that world. But I think the snow aspect there definitely helps brighten it up a little bit.
We have a lot of post-apocalyptic games.
There is a lot.
There are, and we got more coming too, don't we? So let's go ahead and keep moving down the list. Right now, Microsoft came back out and talked about they did some of the things that many commentators were saying they needed to do, is to bring in some studios to produce games, right? That difference between a third-party game and what are some of those first-party exclusives. And so what they did was they just opened up the Microsoft accounts there and brought some people in. Some we knew about already. So the Initiative, Santa Monica studio, we knew about this. It's a couple of big-name developers that has been rumored to be in existence, but nothing there is at a showable state. Then we get Undead Studios. This is the State of Decay developers, right? Prime, you've been playing some State of Decay, or at least dabbling in it a little bit, and it goes back to that post-apocalyptic piece that you were just talking about, Swiss, but it's now part of Microsoft. There was the leak around Playground Games, so we knew that Playground Games was going to be part of Microsoft's first-party studios. Now they purchased Playground Games. That's our Forza, and probably our Fable, which they kind of made a nod to, but they never said anything official. They said, and another big open-world game, which we'll talk about at a later date, right? So that was the nod to Fable, which is the rumored development that part of Playground is doing. And I think back to Playground, the one thing I thought of there, Swiss, is your knock on open world games. And I'm going to give Playground some credit and Forza some credit because of the alternating piece here, right? To me, I think that this is a nice alternation of years. So you get kind of the tight tracks of Forza straight up, the traditional series, and then you get Horizon, which is your open world. So if you like one, you've got a year to, you've got 2 years to enjoy it before the next one of that cycle comes around, rather than feeling like you need to jump on the Forza train every year. So I think that that's a beneficial piece in terms of a studio.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're catering to multiple tastes. And I agree with Prime. It absolutely looked fantastic.
Okay, so we're going to keep going down. They also picked up Ninja Theory. So Ninja Theory it goes back to Heavenly Sword. It goes back to the revamp of Devil May Cry or DMC. Then it is a studio that Andy Serkis has been heavily involved in. The most recent game from them was Hellblade, Setsuna's Revenge. What was it? Setsuna something. But again, Hellblade was a kind of the emotional journey around depression. I believe it was part of that, and well received. And then the final game, the final studio that they picked up was Compulsion Games, which is We Happy Few. So We Happy Few was kind of that uh, Bioshock-esque trailer that released probably 2 years ago, which really set a great tone piece. But the rest of the game was a procedurally generated survival game. It's been out in EA or in early preview for almost 2 years now, and they've gone back to the drawing board on some things and really fleshed out a single-player story. And so, right after this announcement, we also see that a little more of a narrative around We Happy Few, and it really got me interested again. So I loved the initial trailer piece, right? That people are taking their joy pills to kind of mask the degradation of the world around them, and to mask their emotions. And so this is coming out August 10th this year. So here we get a big drop for kind of an indie small game, but I think it could be really interesting to see what they've done. To me, it'll be interesting to see what they've done with the story aspect of that and the narrative, because if they have mechanics in place and now they've given you a reason to engage with those mechanics, it could be a much more successful game than what I dabbled in a year and a half ago. So, yeah, Prime.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if you had mentioned this. I'm kind of flipping through like 3 to 4 different windows, but so back in when it first started coming out, it was some kind of like procedural generated levels that you're supposed to go through, and
Yes.
was it more just like a puzzle game? Because now it looks like it's like a narrative story driven
No,
game,
it
right?
was a survival game, right? You had inventory management and probably some crafting, and it was definitely about surviving. And so now maybe they're taking that, but it's a lot more narrative here.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
All right, so let's keep on rolling down the train here. So we go right from We Happy Few into another game that's been in early access and their preview, which is PUBG. So PUBG gives us a few. It has a nice trailer. We got a few announcements here. I'm not sure how much of this is new straight up, because I know that PUBG has had a couple of new maps in the PC version, but I think like that Vietnam one I've never seen before, and so it'll be. So there were a couple of new maps, right? We had the Vietnam one in a Western setting. So how much of that is new? How much of that is the PC versions coming over to Xbox?
Yeah, that's basically just the PC stuff coming over finally. They're a little bit behind on the PC side, not too bad. So when I was reading today, a little bit more today, Sandhook is going to come. This map is going to come this summer. And then we'll get and I think that's more of a jungle. That's kind of like the Vietnam one. That's kind of more of a jungle-y setting. And then there's a new mode called War Mode, which is already out on PC. I don't know if it's on the full version, production version, or if it's just on their test servers. But basically, that's basically just like a straight up team deathmatch. You actually do respawn in, but you do start out with weapons instead of having to hunt for weapons like you do in the regular mode. So and then just kind of going through the trailer, there's new weapons, new vehicles, and the one guy had a shield, which is totally new. I've never seen that before. So, and that mode is supposed to come out in the winter of this year. So it looks pretty good. I'm excited for that. I'm still playing that, every time I get on. So I've actually jumped on with a pretty good group or pretty good squad. So I'm really enjoying the game right now.
Nice, excellent. So yeah, I think, and the fact that they're continuing to devote resources to it, it gives them, again, back to that uniqueness of Xbox, is that is a game that you cannot play. You can't play on PlayStation. So and if they keep optimizing it, let's say, so that it runs better for everybody on Xbox, I think that'll be even better. So
I don't know if they've ever really said that, though, it's totally exclusive. I don't know if they've actually really said that. Have they? That
I don't know that they've said it's totally exclusive, right? That they said it was. Yes, they kind of dance around it. I don't know if there's any promised timed exclusivity. I think a lot of their conversation last year as they were working on it is that they're a small studio, and that they were focusing on getting it up and running at one place first and foremost.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now we're moving into wow, this conference just jumps around, right? We went from We Happy Few as an indie game to PUBG as another indie game that set the world on fire last year. It's fallen off some, but it's still, there are still 900,000 people playing it on Steam at different points in time. And then we go to an anime game, right? We get Tales of Vesperia, the definitive edition. So this is a game that has been out on PlayStation 4. This gives us all the content from any DLC and character packs and things like that. So, but again, an Tales game, which is an RPG, long-running RPG series, a little more action-oriented in terms of RPGs. And then we go right from there into what I thought was a cool reveal. And I was trying to guess the game as it's coming out, and it's talking about the Capitol and the corruption of government. And then we get about the outbreak, right? And then I knew what it was, and I was excited because it's Division. It is the Division 2, and it's going to be in DC, and it takes place in the springtime. It takes place 6 months after the original Division. So the original Division takes place shortly after the Black Friday viral outbreak, and it's still kind of in the holiday time in New York and Manhattan. Not actually in Manhattan, but in New York. And then now we move into DC. And so they are battling. They go from a pretty slick trailer and reveal into actual gameplay. And so to me, I think this is one of the first actual gameplay pieces that we see at the Microsoft press conference. I mean, we saw a little bit with Ori. We saw a little bit as we got into, obviously, with Sea of Thieves. With Forza Horizon, we saw a lot. But in terms of new announcements, this is it's not just a prepackaged trailer. So I thought that was interesting. It did the completely typical Ubisoft thing of having 4 people talk to themselves as they were real gamers and talk about, oh, you need to level up, or that's some sweet loot, or right? I mean, it was the cringe-worthy moment, but it got across the idea of one of the things I thought that it got across is in the original Division, if you were under-leveled and you were playing with people who were over-leveled, it scaled to the people that were to the highest level. So if you were going in with friends who had over-leveled you, you were getting one-shotted, and your hits were not doing anything, and it was a terrible experience. And I know, Agasicles and myself could talk about that. Greylock from a former podcast could talk about that as well. And so this nod here says that they are acknowledging that and have a better way to play co-op with people who are at a variety of different levels. And so I think that to me stood out. And we get a date. We get the date of March 15th, 2019. So actually kind of right around the same time frame as 3 years later as what the original Division launched at. So I thought that was a nice big get and a reveal there, and then I'm sure we'll get some more of that at Ubi's press conference in the next couple of days. Then we go into Game Pass, and we get so Game Pass was something I was really interested in to see how they would handle that, where they would go. Right back on our prediction show, one of the directors of it comes out and talks about a fast start, which will get you twice as fast into the game. So whether that's some prioritizing downloading or the ability to start streaming as the game is downloading, it'll be interesting to see what that actually means. And then we get the announcement that Master Chief Collection is coming later this year, and a couple indie games, Ashen, which was an indie game announced last year at E3, Vermintide 2 coming out also. And then Todd Howard, when he was up with Fallout 76, said that Fallout 4 was going to be playable on Game Pass as of today. And then that gets confirmed here that not only Fallout 4, but Elder Scrolls Online and The Division, the original one, are all playable as of today in Game Pass. So no real big changes in terms of the way Game Pass works. I think the consistent thing with Game Pass was that it keeps it keeps getting attached at the bottom of the screen to every new release that is a Microsoft Studios piece. So they continue to kind of add value there about what those games are and that they're coming day and date to Game Pass. Thoughts, Prime? You're a Game Pass subscriber along with myself. Any thoughts here on some of these announcements?
Yeah, I thought some of the game announcements was pretty cool. Halo MCC, which I already got, so I mean that's not a big deal. Warhammer After Party, which kind of look interesting. I think that was in kind of the sizzle reel later on, right after that segment. Something called Phoenix Point, which I don't remember if they showed anything of that or not. But I guess I was a little disappointed at this part, just because I thought maybe they'd go into it a little bit more and maybe flesh it out somehow. I'm not sure how, but I just thought they'd announce some bigger games or something that would come to it. But I guess starting out small is probably the way to go and just kind of build up. And obviously they got the big titles from their first party games. And, they got some third parties now that are coming on, but it's still like a year or two, old games. But Division is cool. I'm excited about that because then I'll get to play that. I've been kind of going back and forth, when it goes on sale on Xbox Store, if I want to buy it or not. No, I don't have to.
No, you don't have to, right? Yeah. Yep. No, I think I was really anticipating some kind of big moment here, right? Some type of game changer in terms of how they're going to play this, right? I, as many others had thought about what they would do on the PC side of Game Pass. I thought there were a lot of opportunities, but they kind of just held course. Like, yep, we're going to keep bringing new stuff out. We're going to keep adding to it to give you a back catalog, and we're going to try to make it faster. And they did in this piece here. They also gave a nod to that there's some streaming that's down the pipe, but nothing currently. So yeah, I think it's fine. I think the real test of Game Pass is going to be, as we head into the back section of these announcements, is that all the first party games are Game Pass as well. So let's keep moving down here through. We get a sizzle reel of some indie games. Actually, I was really interested in some of these, just like I was last year, but we'll see how far off some of these are. We get a nice Shadow of the Tomb Raider, really intricate. We get some nice gameplay there. Again, this is kind of the end of the trilogy. Laura becomes much more of a cutthroat and a nice tone piece for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It looks great. I'm excited about this game. And then another game that came out here is one that my son got excited about. It's a skateboarding game, Creature Studios. So it's called Session. It's out on PC, but it's going to be coming to Xbox as well. It looks pretty cool. And it's a pretty solid kind of skateboarding sim. It's a small dev. Then we get Black. Yeah.
I'm sorry, just to jump in. Is that a new dev, or because I've never heard of them before?
It's a small dev. It's out on PC, so I've never heard of them either. I had to.
It was kickstarted back in, looks like 20. I'm not sure what the date was, but they actually had a Kickstarter to run it. So
okay. Yeah, I know during the stream everybody thought it was Skate 4, I think would be the next number. But it's a new skating game though, so I mean that's something.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was Kickstarted is kind of cool. So, and to bring it over to Xbox again, I think is a nice. There's a niche there, right? There's no other market, no other competition for a skateboarding game right now. So one of the things that there is a market for, the Black Desert. So the Black Desert is a MMORPG. First came out in 2014, 2015. It's been out on PC for a while. But they kind of pitch it as this new game. It's new to console, and we'll see what it actually ends up being. I had to do some Googling here to find out about it. Kind of, again, a tone piece, kind of cool fantasy world. We'll see if it fits into kind of that Terra kind of action MMORPG in terms of real combat, or kind of a traditional, timers and waiting for countdowns. So then we move into what is a surprise reveal, or maybe it's a rumored, but Devil May Cry 5. So we get Dante with a white hair and kind of tussle cut hair with a removable arm that can have different powers. Again, so this is Capcom, and coming out in spring 19, looks like a Devil May Cry game in terms of action and juggling and kind of that kind of character action game. Any thoughts here, Prime?
Yeah, I was just kind of interested just because I'm playing, Bayonetta on the Switch. So I'm kind of getting to those games now. I played a little bit back in the day, kind of like that, Nanamusha, and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting. The graphics look really good, and even not just the 3D trailer that was kind of intertwined between the gameplay and in the trailer, but just the gameplay itself, it looked really really gorgeous. So a lot of good looking games. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think this was another one where I'm always looking for in a trailer when it's actual gameplay versus what is kind of pre-rendered footage, even if it's in-engine footage. But there were shots here where it is actually this is what it's going to look like, and so that was good.
Have you guys played? I haven't played Devil May Cry since like the original Devil May Cry on PS2. Have you guys these new ones? How much do they adhere to like the original lineage?
So this one will go back to the lineage, I think, because DMC was the Ninja Theory game, and it kind of was a reboot offshoot. I really enjoyed that one. That was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. But this one seems to be going back to Capcom internally as well. So
it's funny you should mention Onimusha too as well, because I think it was a bug in Onimusha where they actually figured out that whole gameplay mechanic for Devil May Cry where you knock them up in the air and shoot them. Weird tidbit.
Cool.
Yeah, I never played any of the older ones. So, well, I should say I only played the older ones, just like Swiss. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Compare.
Well, another game that looks old but is devilishly hard, but also delicious, is the new Cuphead DLC. So coming in 2019, there's going to be some Cuphead DLC, Delicious Last Course, which will add another character and a new island. Again, Cuphead is a beautiful and a hard, but well-produced game. So it's fun that they've got a great engine, they've got a great art style. Won lots of awards last year in terms of its art style, and so I'm glad to see that they're continuing to pump out and do some dev piece development there around it. So I think one of the things Cuphead makes me think of one of the things in the sizzle reel of the indie games was new Meat Boy, a new Super Meat Boy game, which was a surprise to me. So that kind of fits into that same piece here. Then we get another kind of cartoony game. Tunic was started as a single developer game and is up on the stage. They made a point about that, but it looks like kind of a cartoony, you're a fox and you're out kind of on this adventure, very kind of Zelda-y aspects to it. So actually that game looks pretty cool in terms of just a feel-good kind of video game.
Yeah, this one actually caught my eye too, just because it's kind of like you mentioned that it's kind of Zelda-esque. Just update, for original Zelda-esque, updated graphics and just really colorful, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. Hopefully it comes out soon. I don't know if they had a date or not for that one, or any kind of.
Yeah, no, they did not have a date here. I think one of the things as I look back on the Microsoft conference, I really enjoyed some of the more whimsical, the more cartoony, like with Ori and with Cuphead and Tunic, and we'll get to a couple others here that fall into that kind of fun aspect of video games, in amidst kind of the hardcore. The violent games as well that are out there. So then we get, after Cuphead and Tunic, then we get Jump Force. Now this one was a fun reveal. So this is a brand new game from Namco Bandai coming out in 2019. And, I said Tales of Vesperia was an anime game, but Prime, this is an anime lover's anime game. So tell me about this.
Oh yeah, so it looks like it's going to be, they kind of just showed a little bit of the gameplay. I think 3D fighting. Well, I don't know if it's like total 3D, arena or not, or if it's just kind of like the, 2D, back and forth with a 3D arena around it. But it's got characters from Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball, I should say, not just Dragon Ball Z. And then One Piece is, I think, all that they showed, or all that I could figure out. I don't know all my anime.
That's what it looked like. Those are the three that I noticed as well.
So. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was kind of surprised because here there's been games like that in Japan and overseas because the licensing is a little bit more lax over there, I guess. But here, in the U.S., it's a big deal to try to get all those characters together. But they're together in this video game, so it looks like it's going to be pretty cool.
I was waiting to see like some like Ryu or Ken or something, and have it be like Capcom versus Funimation
yeah.
or something like that. Like that's what I was expecting. But anyway.
Yeah, this is another big one that I definitely am going to keep my eye on and see how this works out. So,
Okay, all right. So then we go from a fun kind of lighthearted, not even lighthearted, but an intense anime fighting game to Dying Light 2. And so they spend a little bit of time here, Dying Light 2. They talk about some of how the choices are going to shape the world. They go into kind of, well, you've got a mission to go rescue the water supply, and if you take it away from the bandits, this stuff happens, and your city has more aspects to it, but there's some downsides to it. Or if you side with the bandits and make water on the available on the black market, you get aspects, you get new upgrades and other things that are available, but there's also repercussions to that. So it'll be kind of, I gotta say, I don't know that I really care about the world, but I think the decision-making tree of that, from a gameplay perspective, is super intriguing. And so I'm curious to see how that all plays out. And then we get a nice little teaser from a follow-up from 3 years ago, when Phil Spencer came out with a Battletoads shirt on underneath his sport coat. And so we get a confirmation that Battletoads is coming in 2019. It's going to be couch co-op, a 3-player couch co-op. And then we jump right from this fun kind of Battletoads reveal into another game that was leaked on Steam, but is also a whole lot of fun. And Prime, you have some history with this series. So talk to me about Just Cause 4.
Oh yeah, this one I was kind of surprised, I guess, because there's the leak, but I wasn't expecting a Just Cause anytime soon. I thought, was it Avalanche Studios was working on? Oh man, I can't remember the game right now. There's another big game that they're working on.
Avalanche is working on. They're partnered with id for Rage 2.
Yes, so I thought this one might have kind of been like later, a few years from now, if at all anymore. But yeah, Just Cause 4 looks as crazy as ever. Actually, it looked like it was at least story wise, there might be a little bit more serious tone. It's always been, I guess, it's kind of been serious if you're playing through the game, but there's just it doesn't take itself serious though with the actions you're doing. But looks like this one might be a little bit more darker, I guess you could say. Looks gorgeous once again, another great looking game. Looks like there's some weather going on, like weather effects maybe, because there's like a tornado in some of the spots that you see him like like riding a car like into the tornado, and he's like kind of whirling around it, and able to do all his crazy squirrel suit or whatever you want to call it, glider thing, and grappling hook, and all that craziness. So I'm definitely, this one got me really excited. I think this one, after the Game Pass stuff, it was kind of a little bit of a lull for me when the Jump Force 2 kind of got me excited, but this one really got me excited because I'm really looking forward to this one, and this December 4th this year. So I was kind of surprised at the date too.
Sorry, Just Cause 3, was that cross-platform? Not cross-platform, but it was cross-generation, right? Did it come out, or was it only on? It was early in PlayStation and Xbox's life cycle. I'm thinking like 2015.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah.
So kind of fun. Yeah, I think it was an exciting trailer, right? Just big, fun, open world stuff. Lots of explosions. They got some grappling hook. They crashed a plane through some stuff. They rolled through a tornado, like you said, right? Lots of just fun gameplay. So, and then we get into some fun reveal here for a mobile game. We get the little pop characters, the little figurines with the big heads for Gears of War come out, and there's some Gears of War Gears Pop for mobile. I have no idea what this game is going to be, but I got to tell you guys, the idea of playing some type of shooter with a big-headed Marcus Phoenix against, I think that's really cool. Against the Locust, it could be kind of a fun game. So I'm curious to see what it actually is and how mobile it is. And then we get another Gears game, which was kind of rumored as we were heading into this, was Gears Tactics. Wasn't quite sure what. There was a Gears strategy game that was going to be out, and so now we know it is Gears Tactics. It's going to be turn-based, a little faster pace, but kind of looks to be more in the XCOM vein than in kind of the Halo Wars RTS vein. So Swiss, what were you going to say?
When they were releasing this Gears Pop and the Gears Tactics, were either of I don't think that Gears 5 had been fully announced yet, right? So
no,
when you saw those, were you actually thinking, wow, this is what they're going with the Gears franchise for the time being? And did you think that the Gears 5 follow-up was going to actually happen?
No, I didn't think the Gears 5 was going to happen, but see things like this. I don't mind because I actually like when studios and developers actually try to do something different. I know a lot of people don't, but the Gears Pop might be like way out there maybe, especially since it's a mobile game. But I think it's cool. Tactics, excuse me, kind of makes sense, I guess, kind of in that world. Just because just how Halo Wars kind of made sense, within that universe. So I didn't. I definitely didn't think Gears 5 was going to come out, but I'm definitely intrigued a little bit on these two games and just to see what happens. And I guess my final comment that it was kind of hilarious when Gears Pop, like they kind of just showed the Gears symbol and everyone was like, "Yay!" because they thought it was Gears 5 and it wasn't. So kind of the air deflated out of the room.
Yeah, I knew Gears 5 was coming. I didn't think it was actually going to be this year in terms of an announcement. So when it did show up, when Ferguson came out on stage and talked about Gears 5 and its focus on Kate, and they didn't really show gameplay again. I guess they did during the trailer, but they gave you kind of a cinematic aspect and gave you kind of the tone. So I was surprised at that. I think that was kind of their big ender. I was talking with my son about how I guess, they've got to have one more, right? Because Phil's out here, he's wrapping up. It seems like they're going to have a mic drop moment. And Phil says, thank you and good night. And then we get hacking. And I think that was done really well, right? It felt like they had closed off the press conference. And then CD Projekt Red pops in and gives us the first big trailer of Cyberpunk 2077. So, any thoughts on Cyberpunk or anything else related to the Microsoft press conference, gentlemen?
I liked how they used MS-DOS to initialize Cyberpunk 2077. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was, as far as I know, it was just, what was it, in engine, or is it just like a CG trailer? So, I mean, it looks cool.
It was all CG at this stage. I don't see anything that was in engine at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it looks cool. I mean, I guess you can kind of maybe figure out some things you might be able to do, but I mean, not really, I suppose, because there was kind of just quick cuts and stuff like that. So
I just got a very Grand Theft Auto meets the future vibe. Is what I got.
Well, give me a cyberpunk. I guess that is cyberpunk. Give me a futuristic sci-fi Witcher, and I'm all on board, right? I mean, I'm going to choose a sci-fi adventure over a fantasy most days. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they do the story, just because The Witcher was just rich in the story and the lore. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, I don't want to say modern day, but futuristic, I guess, setting instead of a fantasy setting. So, and then just one other thing, I guess they had talked about gaming on any device and their Microsoft AI and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess that was just a quick blur before they did the Cyberpunk thing.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Microsoft? Again, lots of games, 50 games, 18 of them are exclusive, 15 world premieres. They just came out and came trailer after trailer after trailer. They did a little bit of gameplay, but they really kind of focused on, plays best on Xbox X, right? They played up that idea of here we've got, I know you're hearing the narrative out there that there's nothing that's exclusive. They played into that in terms of here's the stuff that we have that's exclusive. And so I think that they, again, tried to hit that tone of why you want to be playing on Xbox and gave us a reason why there are some games coming out on Xbox, and whether you purchase them or you get them through Game Pass, you're still in the Microsoft ecosystem at that stage. Prime, any final thoughts on Microsoft here?
I think overall it was a very good show. It's kind of like the EA, that nothing totally wowed me. There's some things obviously like the Jump Force and Just Cause, but nothing that came like directly from them that was like, oh, I can't believe this. So yeah, I mean, it was a good show. I think they did what they had to do. They just had to focus on what the games that are out there, and little disappointed on the Game Pass stuff and things like that. But that's all right. I'm still gonna be playing on the system, so I don't really see anything in the foreseeable future from them, at least that I'll buy. I'm not a big Forza guy, like I said before, but maybe I'll pick this one up. Well, I'll be able to get it on Game Pass, I suppose, so I'll be able to at least try it out. We Happy Few is interesting, so I might pick up that one too. I don't know if they've ever mentioned that was a Game Pass one or not, but because I think I guess it would be now because it's first party.
I guess it would be now, right? Because it's first party. So which is good. That gives me a reason to, that's kind of, again, really interesting in some of the things that are coming out, but not a whole lot of reason why I'm going to be downloading any first party exclusive games right now, but a lot of stuff that I'm interested in.
Yep.
Again, I think I feel comfortable with Game Pass. I'm glad that it's on sale this week. You can buy a physical card 6 months for $30. So I may be picking up some of those to fill my year. And I think that sweet spot of $60 for a year for Game Pass is definitely a lot of value. So we're going to kick off and head out here. We are past our hour mark. The Bethesda press conference is still going on. Todd Howard is out on stage talking about Bethesda Fallout 76. I just want to do a quick rundown of the Bethesda conference up to this point, gentlemen, and see if you have any quick thoughts. So we get Rage 2. There is a new Doom Eternal. It's going to be a sequel. Quake Champions gets a free download this week, and if you download it this week, you've got access to it for free all the rest of the time. Prey gets some DLC with Moon Crash. There is a Wolfenstein Youngblood coming out, Wolfenstein 2 Youngblood coming out in 2019. And now we're on to Fallout. So anything in that first initial piece, this is actually some Fallout gameplay that's going on right now. So the first actual gameplay from Fallout 76. And I'm sure we'll get more of that as we go back through the rest of the conferences.
Yeah, looks like it's an online portion or... Fallout. That's what I'm seeing here in some of the comments in the stream here. So
this is the hard part about hosting a show and trying to watch a show at the same time. So if you say so, I'll take it at that.
Looks like it, but yeah, I mean, other than that, Rage 2 actually looks pretty interesting, just because it looks totally different from what the original one was. So we'll definitely have to check that out. And so far, no Elder Scrolls stuff other than their online and Elder Scrolls Legends. So we'll see. Hopefully they announce something.
Yeah, there was a fun little skit of Elder Scrolls, a very special edition with Alexa. But yes, just the card game and ESO Online with their new expansion in Somerset. So, all right, gentlemen, we have passed our hour mark. We are well past it, but this is E3, so we're going to be running a little bit late. We will be coming back on Tuesday night. Tuesday night, we'll have the Sony press conference. We'll have Ubisoft. We'll have Square to talk about. We may even sneak in some Nintendo there, depending on where the announcements are. So we've got a lot more content coming up this week on the E2KG network. Tuesday night, our normal showtime in terms of 9:15 Eastern. And then we'll be back on Thursday at 9:15 Eastern as well, with a wrap up of E3 and some standouts for the week. So for myself, DBQ Hams, for Swissguard and Osiris Prime, thank you for joining us on our first Day Zero E3 podcast. And again, until a few days from now, there's plenty of E3. There's plenty of games happening this week. So stay tuned and enjoy and engage us in the conversation. Let us know what you think, what games stood out to you back in the comments, and we'll be back here on E2KG in just a few days. Good night, everybody.